Next. So long dry spells with floods and intense water shortage, diminishing flows. 50% of world's rivers have become intermittent. They were all, what you call the perennial rivers. 50% of the world river, this nature paper just came last year, 50% of world rivers have become intermittent because of the extreme conditions, the extreme drying episodes, and we are experiencing in Ganga basin, a lot of watersheds are shrinking. The smaller smaller rivers are becoming extinct. So this data, as early as 2025, half of the world population will be living in water stressed area. This is a reality. Already we are in water stressed regions of the world. Next. The climate change is also hurting the farmer. There is a decrease in farmers' income, and this is from Economic Survey 2017-18. How extreme temperature shocks are affecting the Rabi Kharif crops, even the rainfall. The rainfall, extreme rainfall shocks, for example, it is affecting decrease in farmers' income by 13.7%. So there is a need for crop insurance. But what company is coming for insuring the farmers? Are they giving them the benefits, the damage compensation when there is a crop loss? It's very difficult because they have been secured, but they are not coming forward to give the money. When it comes to money, then they are not coming forward. Right? Next. So if you see the data on temperature, it's already recorded. We have already gone by 1.2 degrees Celsius in the last 19th century, and a lot of temporal and spatial heterogeneity in terms of weather incidences. Next. And this is a classical picture. If you see all reds, it is increase in temperature. So when we say average doesn't make any sense because you are having regional and local climate forcing functions, and that is even more in South Asia. So there are regions which have experienced even 2 degrees rise in temperature compared to 1960. So decadal temperature increase, that is more visible now. Next. And this is a classical hockey stick picture. The CO2, the hockey stick hypothesis, how CO2 has gone up from pre-industrial level of less than 300 parts per million to now around 420, 419 parts per million. Right? Next. And this is the picture that I show, that if you consume 1 kilogram or if you emit 1 kilogram of CO2, it will take almost more than 200 years to diminish it completely because of the residence time of CO2. So all the CO2 that you are emitting right now, it is going to stay in your ambient air for next 300 years. So you must bring down your CO2 below 350 ppm, right? We have already crossed the tipping point. Next. And these are all, methane and nitrous oxide, all greenhouse gases, because they trap heat. And when the heat is increasing, the hydrological cycle is getting intensified. You are going to have more rain, more cloud bursts, more western disturbances. Next. Flux of carbon. Whatever you are releasing on the top, it must be accumulated somewhere, sequestrated, carbon sequestration. But where the carbon is going? Your carbon is going either to ocean or the atmosphere. But see what is happening in the lower side, accumulation more. The ocean, they are the biggest sink of carbon, and because the carbon is going to water, so the acidity of ocean is increasing. And you are having the coral bleaching. Coral, they are getting, So I am deviating slightly, but let me come back to the topic. Next. These are the models. All Hadley Center model and GHECSR model, how the temperature is going to increase if we continue the business as usual scenario. We can even cross the 2 degrees Celsius that was fixed by the Paris Agreement, 1.5 degrees, not even 2. Next. So if you want to achieve to keep your CO2 below 300 parts per million, the production rate must be around 2 gigatons of carbon per year, but right now we are even crossed 6 gigatons. So that means all these actions that we are taking, they have a minuscule impact on the total carbon flux and hence the hydrological cycle, the intensification. Next. So are we on track? I think no. We are not going to meet this Paris Agreement target. We are even going to exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. We have already shown how we are exceeding the limit. And only answer is green action and circular economy. Green action. Okay, if you cannot be circular, there is no escape. So we have to, from a vicious cycle, you have to come to virtuous cycle. Make a very holistic sort of system and connect the dots together like building blocks and move to more circular economy. Next. Next. So these are the targets of 26th Conference of Parties, and if you see the last point, mobilize finance. This is required for all of the above, that is global net zero by 2050. India has also placed, we have Mission Life, announced at the Glasgow by our Honorable Prime Minister. Mission Life, and water and sanitation is very important sector. We have to be climate resilient by investing huge in this sector, the water and sanitation sector, and develop more infrastructure which is in tune with the climatic shocks, more on adaptation. A lot of fund is going on mitigation, but what about adaptation? Right, next. So of course we talk about green finance. Green finance is not similar to the climate finance. Green finance is basically to have more sustainable business, but they may not be circular. They may not be compliant with life cycle assessment, LCA. We do from cradle to grave. What is the amount of emissions? How much carbon you are emitting? What is your global footprint, carbon footprint? So we come down to the next level, that is come down. We have so many green bonds and blended finance, a lot of blended finance, green bonds, and so many instruments are coming up. But the climate finance is more inclusive, which has a range of tools and instruments. But are we ready? What is the current level of readiness? Are we able to monitor? There was one paper which says that it is not doing anything. It is like a wolf having a face of sheep. जो सियार है वो बकरी का खाल पहना हुआ है, ऐसे बोलते क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस को. Because ultimately it is not doing the change at the base of the pyramid. You know what I mean? The deep-rooted changes in your infrastructure and all, governance. Next. So you have to do more on preparing and adjusting to future impacts and also on mitigating. And mixed of private and government funds. Okay, next. I'll show you some of the targets. Like there was a pledge of 100 billion climate finance, but we have not reached. They placed, but nobody is coming forward. And this was done to bridge the north-south divide. We gave this formula of climate justice to have more resilience, but funding is not coming. Next. Some of the examples, like we have multilateral development banks, we have governments, we have private parties, and there's the International Climate Fund is also there. Next, there are different models. I will not go into detail. Can we come back, go to next slide? These are the intermediaries and private sources. There are corporate actors, project developers, private households also big source. There is a lot of willingness to pay for improved water and sanitation. So can we tap the willingness to pay and develop into the value? If you improve the quality of life, people are more willing to pay if there is a benefit in quality of life. And there are private equity, venture capital and infrastructure funds. Next. Thailand, good example of Green Climate Fund. They have, this is more on adaptation because there are a lot of extreme flooding. So what they are doing, they are trying to do investment in flood control and mitigation. They are trying to do ecosystem based approach, developing embankments without disturbing the river. Next. But there are also examples of Costa Rica where there is more emphasis on mitigation, on public transport, basically from the private transport to more rapid transit system and metros. Next. Then you have in solar Again, there is a clean technology fund is coming in a very big way in solar industry, where Chile is trying to work more on risk, cost and liquidity barriers. How do you take care of those liquidity barriers once you have the large solar infrastructure? How do you promote the manufacturing base of the solar panels? Next. And the last point, do we have anything on disclosure regulations? Because to have a deep-rooted change which could permeate to all the base of the pyramid, can you hold companies and investors to account in terms of their impact on the environment? Are they doing the value addition? Right? So what sort of metrics we should use to define what is green and what is, how much value addition it is creating? To what extent it is improving the quality of life? Next. So last point, from vicious cycle to virtuous cycle, change the lives and livelihoods of people through low carbon investment. Laws, regulations and programs at the state and district levels. We have the district climate authorities also there, state authorities are there. We have to invest in energy, housing, transport, agriculture transformations, deep transformations. And the future of climate action relies on the decisions we make today in the emerging markets. Right? So I will stop here because of the paucity of time. And I would say that you have to work again on your diamond model. The community is at the top. The community. And passion is very important. Money can sustain infrastructure to a certain point, but unless until you develop capacity, you create awareness, you create that sort of belongingness, then your infrastructure, your system will not work in the long run. Thank you so much.